Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Adrian of Addy Journals, and today I want to go over do my Techo Kaigi for 2024 and talk about my 2025 setup. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so in 2024 I started out with a couple of notebooks. Primarily, I think there were four items. First of all, the morning journal with astrology. If you watched my previous video, you will see that I've kind of reviewed this one. I'm not going to show all of the notebooks for my morning journal again in this video, but this one is my morning journal, and this is just for my morning practice, you know, manifesting my days and things like that. And I started this in the beginning, and it seemed like I've kept through with it throughout the rest of the year. So this is one of the items. Alright, so what I started with in 2024 were actually 4 notebooks. And these were supposed to be used for a variety of different things, okay? The first one, and I'm just going to go from top to bottom. The first one was this traveler's notebook and passport sized for a reading journal. And I used it for, quite frankly, a month or so before I gave up on this. And the reason that this actually does not work for me is size-wise. Number one, I don't find this to be very conducive to anything beyond very quick notes, jot down. It's not really comfortable to write in for me. So that was a primary reason why I didn't do that. What I ended up doing at some point was actually switching the reading journal and adding that into my morning journals. And so my morning journals have been something that I've been doing consistently. If you watched my previous video on the notebook reviews, you'll see that most of my morning journals have been from January to now December. And at some point, I want to say around the time that I got into the lecterm morning journal is when I started adding my reading into my morning journal. And I'll come back to this in just a moment, but basically in the end, the reading journal, adding it into any of my notebooks actually did not end up working out for me, mostly because I like to write a synopsis of all of these notebooks, all of these books that I've read, so that I can just kind of keep it for myself. And so I stopped using this. I stopped doing book reading, book journals, anything like that. All of my reading now is done digitally and saved digitally, all of the information. So unfortunately, the morning journal is not, the reading journal, I keep saying morning journal. The reading journal is not coming back for 2025. At all. It's going to continue being in a digital format as it has been working for me these last several months into the end of the year. So this is going to be delegated as more like a carry-all, just in case I have questions or something that I want to jot down while I am out and about. But beyond that, this is not a size that is conducive for anything for me, and I can't even find it useful for journaling in any way. So the travel notebook is kind of out of it for me. I will not be coming back to use this full time beyond notating. Okay. Then next up, I had the camel colored traveler's notebook with a commonplace insert and a couple of other inserts. And for the most part, the intention behind it was that I would just have all of these things in here, just have all of the information in one location, and then use this also primarily for my travels. And honestly, I did not do the commonplacing as much as I would have liked. I will do a separate video on that if you guys are interested. but it just wasn't working for me in terms of like daily notebook use. So this one just kind of was like a catch-all that I ended up using it for different things and just putting the information in here, especially during my travels and things like that. So that's kind of been what this one has turned out to be. It just, unfortunately, I'm not learning a lot. Like, I'm not really doing a lot of reading for a purpose. It's more reading just because I enjoy to read. And I'm not really that kind of person who likes to save quotes and kind of do references in a notebook. So I found that the common person just wasn't working for me in terms of how I am right now and like what my life is like right now. And most of the travel notebooks that I do end up using, they ended up being more for travel, visiting different places, exploring, and just kind of overall memory keeping to that end. And I will talk more about the 2025 lineup in just a little bit, and we'll come back to this in a moment. So that leaves the two other things. First was my monthly planner, which is for this year it was a passion planner. And the intention behind this was to basically plan out my days, plan out my years, and then basically come back in and do memory keeping. But if you have looked at some of my other videos on how I've been using the passion planner in the past, you'll know one thing that I've stated over and over again is that this has stopped working for me. I have not actually filled this out since I want to say September, and it's because there's not enough space in here for me to memory keep and plan. And at the same time, one thing that I realized while using this was that I wanted something with me at work, and I do not like having my coworkers or even anyone being able to just flip through my personal stuff and see any of my memory keeping in there and my thoughts in there. So I ended up, for that reason, I ended up actually getting another traveler's notebook for that, for work specifically. And in here I've used the undated traveler's notebook insert along with a gridded insert for any notes that I'm taking at work. So that has been actually working more so than this. And in September, beginning of October, I made the decision to not go through with it and continue using this. So this has kind of been, for the last 3 months of the year, 4 months of the year, has just been empty. It's not been working for me because space-wise, there's just not enough to write things in, to memorialize everything that's been going on during my day. And things like I want to write down what kind of book I've read or what kind of movie I watched or whatever. It just, with everything that you put into it, sometimes it doesn't really always fit. And so sometimes I'm left without space, or sometimes I want to add more things, more pictures, and just don't have the space because there's a to-do list. But again, I explore this more in detail in my Passion Planner video, so go ahead and watch that if you're interested in learning more about it. And that brings me to my memory keeping. The memory keeping, I think it's been one of the more consistent ones that I've been doing in 2024. A lot of reflection, a lot of thinking through things, and so on. And I am currently still in the strategy because I want to finish this up before I jump into any new notebooks. But it has been by far the one that has been useful, especially in my day-to-day. I'm not talking about travel, I'm not talking about going places, right, where the traveler's notebook by far outshines this, but this one is more for the day-to-day planning, thinking, and just I mean, I wouldn't say planning, but more like manifesting, like this is how I want my day to go, and then making it happen. And I found that by just doing this morning practice, or even throughout the day practice, I've gotten a lot of things sorted in my mind about what I want to do, where I want to go. This year, what I've done, and just where I want to take this. And for me, this has been a very meaningful practice. So I am planning on taking this into 2025 to just continue that mindfulness. And I've noticed that overall I'm a lot more aware of my thoughts and just my body especially. I have not realized until 2024 just how stressed out I was about everything, and having these journals just to write about them and seeing the themes that keep coming up has been extremely beneficial. All right, so that's one thing that's going to 2025. Now, what's my 2025 lineup going to look like? And this is where things I think are going to start changing. So while I have had the Passion Planner in 2024, I also had the Morning Journal, which has kind of become, because of the Passion Planner, it has also become my 4-day journal and memory keeping journal. What this is going to do is, in 2025, I want to make the morning journal purely the morning journal, and all of the memory keeping goes into the Hobonichi. So the Hobonichi Avec in 2025 is going to be my go-to. I did go through a planner setup video earlier, so please check that out if you haven't seen that already. And because it has the daily pages, I do expect myself to have not only planning, but also some information on what happened that day and so on. So I'm looking forward to being a little bit more creative in that sense, because that hasn't really been happening in the Passion Planner that often. That has been somewhat happening in the morning journal, but ideally I would like to maybe use this more as a spillover journal, or just like a companion journal to the Hobonichi, and have as much as possible in the Hobonichi instead of being across two journals. So that's book number 1 for 2025. I am planning on staying with Traveler's Notebook for my travels. That is not going to change. I've loved these notebooks. I love the system for travels because you can put in as many notebooks as you need. And in fact, this was the work Traveler's Notebook in olive color. It looks brown, but it's actually the olive color. And I was able to fit 3 notebooks, not only just my work planner and my work notebook, but also my travel notebook, which I think is really perfect for the kind of work that sometimes I need to do, and just have that information. But generally speaking, when I'm traveling, I am always having one of these notebooks. In fact, this is my 2nd or my 3rd notebook from Traveler's Company. This one is by far probably the more beat up one because I take it everywhere, but I do plan on going back to my camel colored one and using that for the camel colored, for some of the travel items in here. So these will be my 3 notebooks: my morning journal / spillover journal, my Hobonichi planner, and then my work notebook for work and just having notes in here. Now, one thing that I've been inclined to do and change for 2025 is potentially combining, and not necessarily in any order, but combining the work notes with my morning journal in my planner. So I've been really kind of feeling like I want to encompass more of my life together in the sense that, work is part of life, even though it's not all of life. And I wanted to kind of incorporate that in here. Hence, I basically purchased note paper and have a couple of spreads in here already for this information and this notebook to kind of use it as both work notes and a morning journal / catch-all journal for all of this. One thing that I'm not really sure about, and I'm going to be in the process of figuring this out in 2025, is where does the undated weekly fit into this. So I'm still thinking that I might want to keep this traveler's notebook with everything in it, just to see how this works out. But ideally, I would like to combine both of these two, the morning journal and my traveler's notebook for work, into one somehow in some way that would then allow me to just only carry 2 notebooks on any given day. And the way that I would actually use this is I purchased this little one more chapter because I'm very particular about making sure that my leather notebooks are taken care of. So I would just put the plotter inside this and make sure that it doesn't get scratched up or anything like that. I'd rather that this gets scratched up and destroyed over the plotter. I will have to figure out. How this will work, to be honest with you folks. I am not yet sure. I really do want to try this, but once I finish my strategy, I will then be moving into this. And my idea was basically to every end of the week basically archive this, because I do write quite a lot. So to archive the pages from my plotter into an archive binder, which I've purchased as well, and just archive it on a weekly basis. That way the notebook never fills up. I don't really want it to be thick anyway, because I don't go back to the same notebook that same year. I may look at it in the future. So this is where I am at with this, and we'll see how 2025 comes out, but this is where I'm starting at. My thought process is, my starting point at the moment might be just these 2 in January. Potentially, if I do not finish the strategy by that point, I will be carrying this into 2025 for the beginning of 2025, and then switching to plotter. All right. So this is where I'm at. I found that I think that this system is going to help me, I guess, identify or work with the needs that I have right now. I do see that the morning journal has been really helping me, and I'm hoping that I can simplify just how much I write every day by just putting a lot of this information and most of the spread. And what I mean by that is, I mean things like, when I went to Yoseka and I did like this, right? So these kind of spreads to be less in 2 pages, but basically just kind of do them in the spread on 1 page. So we'll see. We're going to be testing about it. If you are interested, and this is just my thinking out loud kind of thing, would you guys be interested in a series of finding my style on how to do the Hobonichi thing? Because this is the first full year that I will be using this. So I'm open to just trying different styles, different ways of using it, and taking you guys along on the journey with me on how I do it. All right. Those are it. That's my plan. We will see. I'm more about being flexible and finding a system that works for me, right? For either a season or a reason. And I've noticed that right now in this season or this era of my life, for 2024, surprisingly, the morning journals have been a thing The travel notebooks have been a thing, the passion planner less so, and so I am seeing that I'm looking at simplification. I don't want to make it more complex for myself. The less the better, the easier it is for me to reach for these notebooks. And so I am hoping that, one thing that we could change in 2025 that may make things a little bit easier for me is just moving into 2 notebooks, period, for at least the first quarter of the year, first 2 months of the year, and see how it goes from there. But it all is contingent upon where I'm at with this strategy by the end of this month. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm honestly really excited about this whole plan, and then just having something a little bit more flexible that way I can take out the pages out of the notebook and write on the desk without having to hold down the pages in any way, or so the notebooks get thick, right? So one of the things about these notebooks is that at the end of the day, when you're writing here, it does lay flat, but you still have to kind of press down a little bit just to be able to write on this page. So I'm gonna miss the strategy, but I'm excited to try this and see how this works for me. Maybe it'll be even better than the bound notebooks. Alrighty? So yeah, let me know what you guys think, if you'd like to see a series on discovering a journey discovery on my journaling style and things like that. I think that would be really fun to do next year. And that's pretty much it for this one. Let me know if you guys have any questions. What will you be using in 2025? I'm really curious to hear about your spreads and your plans for 2025. At least, what do you hope to start with? Do you hope to start with just one notebook? Do you hope to have a planner? Do you plan to use a Hobonichi? I think you need to remember always at the end of the day that you're using these are tools, right? These are tools that are supposed to help you with whatever you need in your life. And sometimes some things work for one season or one reason, and then other times they just don't work. A great example for me has been that passion planner. I've loved it for 3 years, and somehow this year it just unfortunately wasn't working for me, and is kind of making me shift into just the Hobonichis and basic journaling. All right? So find your reason, find your season, and happy journaling, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good one.